Hello and welcome. My name is Gloria Washington, and I will be the host and moderator for this ADEIL conference session. Thank you for joining us for United Through Video, Enhancing Student Experiences. Please welcome Kimberly Livingood and Kristen Lyons.
Thank you, and good afternoon. We're presenting a United Through Video, and there's been so many good ideas in the presentations that we've heard that we just wanted to focus today on one, because it can be so overwhelming with all of the good ideas. There's so many things you want to try, so many ways you want to try it, so many tools, so many options. And so today we're just going to focus on the one thing with videos.
Hi, I'm Kristen Lyons, and I am working in the Department of Curriculum and Instruction at Angelo State University along with Dr. Livingood. And I typically teach coursework within the either the professional school counseling classes or our mental health and wellness counseling program.
And I'm Kim Livingood, and I usually end up teaching the research courses or the data analysis courses within those programs. And then there's several others within our department.
One thing I wanted to ask, I was talking to I have 3 boys. I was talking to my oldest son on the way to school today. And I was telling him I was going to do a presentation. I said, and there could be people from all over the United States. And his face, he was like, what? I said, I know, it's crazy to think of. And so if y'all could do me a favor, and I see that Dr. Gloria Washington has posted that she's in South Carolina. So if y'all wouldn't mind, will you just throw out your state on there? And I told him, I said, I'm going to tell you where all these people are from today. And so he was pretty fired up to get to hear that after school today. So if y'all don't mind, in the chat, just throw out there we go. Thank you, David. But that's just something that way we can kind of see where everyone's from, and then just start that chat and open it up and hopefully make it comfortable. So thank y'all for being here. We're so excited to get to share this information with y'all. As you notice, obviously we're from Texas, because I say y'all. Dr. Livingood doesn't probably say as much as I do, but online learning, that is definitely something that if you weren't familiar with it, guess what? You probably are now. With the pandemic, that just threw a different kind of curveball. Online learning was already growing and was already recognized almost as its own phenomenon. And then you have COVID hit, and it was a whole different ball game for everyone involved, even for those that are used to being in an online environment. But since the fall of 2017, there has actually been 1/3 of students that are degree granting post-secondary institutions. They were enrolled in distance education courses, 1/3 of their students there. And then just over 15% of students at these institutions were exclusively enrolled in distance education courses. So we see the growth already, and then you hit pandemic and everybody got to see that growth just spike, right? These courses in online learning, they are either synchronous or asynchronous. And though we have this type of environment now, and depending on pandemic and depending on university restrictions or any kind of education restrictions, depends on if you are still in the online environment or if you're a mix of it, or if you're still back to face-to-face. However, one thing we have learned is that no matter what, those interactions that you have face-to-face, you have to figure out a way to get those interactions within your online learning environments. One thing that we have learned in just different research and then in our own experiences, if those interactions aren't there, isolation is definitely something that students can begin to experience. And as you move online, sometimes we always think of, the numbers that are online and how many students are taking it and what courses are being offered. But sometimes we don't truly dig down and think about the content that has to be delivered. And we got that experience from when we went to the pandemic. You know, if you were face-to-face, all of a sudden courses you thought those can't ever be online, guess what? They all had to go there. And so thinking of how best to translate the information from face-to-face to online. And that's where we started seeing some of the growth and ways to work through that. So for our personal situation here and for others, so setting the stage for what this could look like, our program specifically here, Dr. Livingood and I and all of our colleagues, we teach in the online environment. So pre-pandemic, we were already teaching in the online environment. And actually our campus is our entire university campus pre-pandemic, we already had 50% of semester credit hours were offered online. So we're pretty familiar with this. However, the challenges that students face, and then you add in the pandemic, even for those of us that are typically in the online environment, things changed. And we still had to make adjustments because of what all we had to work through, and then what our students were having to work through as well. And that's something that we all grew in, I think, throughout this pandemic. With students, you do have to think about, you know, the time, not only the students' time in doing online learning, however, the instructor's time to get that prepped to present the online learning environment you want to produce for your students. With online, there is a requirement of a lot of self-motivation. However, that motivation can also come from the instructor and how they set up that course. So we decided one way to bridge that gap between whether face-to-face to online, or limiting or trying to get rid of the feelings of isolations that were felt by our students, we have worked on implementing videos. And those videos were one way to bridge that gap and open that communication among students and between students and the instructor.
So the connections that we were trying to bridge with those videos are still the same traditional connections that you have to deal with in a face-to-face classroom. You still need to look at the student to instructor connections, the student to content connections, the student to student connections. They are all key to building that community so that they do avoid those feelings of isolation. So with student to instructor connections, those connections are one of the big factors for student satisfaction and with retention, and for the students to actually successfully accomplish the learning outcomes. They need to know that there's a real person, that there's a real person that is responding to them, that they actually have, that they are there. And so that's some of the ways you have that instructor connection is through videos. And it could be mini lectures, it could be virtual office hours, synchronous sections, are just some of the things that you think about when you think about that student to instructor connection. Then you have that student to content connection. And that is where you're really looking at the learner's perspective of what they're learning. They can get involved in the text, the watching media for content, whether they're working on projects and things like that. And so you get that student interaction with the content. Then you have the student-student interaction. And that's where they need to feel a member of the group. They need to feel a part of a bigger piece, a bigger puzzle, and that's that class. When they walk into a face-to-face classroom, they know they're a part of this class. They have everyone around them to see it. But when they walk into or click open an online course, that's not so readily available. They may not even know at first where to even see how many people are in their class. And so that's where some of the videos, they need to be videos were a way to make some real connections, with real people, including the instructor as well as other students. And with these connections, the connections are a way to provide support and engagement and flexibility. With the learning, with the engagement is such a crucial part, whether it's face-to-face or online. That engagement has a strong impact on the students' ability to achieve, their ability to grasp the content, as well as it has an effect on the retention, which is a big deal when it comes to online courses because they tend to have a lower retention rate than face-to-face classes. And so with face-to-face classes, you traditionally can see kind of that lack of engagement by students either not coming or they're not discussing, they're not participating. But in online courses, it's not as easy to catch that lack of engagement. And so it takes some careful planning and some strategic attempts, a strategic implementation of tools and projects and things like that to be able to open up those doors. And with that flexibility, to do those different things, but also it gives the students the flexibility to engage with everything at their convenience. Sometimes it's not always the same time, but at least there's some ways that they can still make connections, see real people, but on their own time.
So some of the ways that, the way we broke down the use of videos, one reason that we truly like to use them is so many times after implementing these, our students will say, oh my goodness, I saw that you were real. I mean, typically they see our, our typed words instead of our pictures, our body language, our nonverbal and verbal. And so the videos were able to carry a different type of communication than just written word. So the way we kind of tried to break down the categorization of the videos that we use, there's 3 different kinds. One is teacher immediacy. And with that, we have called that as the response to the now. So what is going on right now that needs to be addressed? So if there's some confusion that we might see in discussion boards, or if someone, they were kind of going down a different route and that's not exactly what the purpose was, then we would make a teacher immediacy video and we'd post it as an announcement to help get students on the right track, to clarify any communication. If something went down and needs to be fixed. So that is what we would use those videos for. Also, another way we use teacher immediacy videos is by, sometimes a student will email and have very specific questions about their own work in their class, or just sometimes they just need encouragement. And so this is where that video would be used. I know I've personally will sometimes almost do like motivational talks through video and email that to a student, specifically addressing what issues they were having at that time. And the response from students has been outstanding on that. They felt like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you took the time to just talk to me. And we do that in class face to face all the time. But in this environment, that takes on a more personal meaning whenever you're able to make that just for them. Another type of video we do is instructional videos. These are more course specific, so they can carry in that course no matter how many times you do it. For example, these are the more common videos you would think of. So like lecture, and they can be sent in announcements, or they can be embedded within the module that you are teaching, and having that information stay right there with it. And you can, like I said, either announcement or in the module, whatever way you feel like it's best to communicate that information. And then the third kind of video is called an evergreen. And the way, think of an evergreen tree. It can stay and it stays forever and it stays green, right? And so these are the types of videos that can carry everywhere. So for example, they can be in multiple places. We have something called an orientation tab, and that is accessible by all courses by our students. And that has like APA helpful videos, how to navigate a course, how to find your Blackboard feedback, how to find your Turnitin feedback, videos like that just carry across. Another type of video we use that we consider evergreen is some self-care videos. To me, it doesn't matter what the content is in that course. Every student needs to learn how to implement self-care. So just helpful reminders that can carry across no matter the content. So in order for us to gain these types of, we did a survey and we were able to gather feedback from students on what they thought and how the implementation of these types of videos. And overall, students only had positive feedback on these strategies that were used. So now we'll share a couple of examples of these specific types of videos. This first one is a sample from, it's a teacher immediacy. This is a video that actually was recorded, and sorry, y'all are gonna get to see a lot of me right now, but it was recorded for a wrap up at the end of the session in the pandemic. So.
Hi everyone. One last video to wrap up this session. I wanted to start by saying congratulations. You have made it through one of probably the craziest 8-week/7-week sections of a course that there ever has been. So you truly need to pat yourself on the back because you did it. With everything that's going on in life, with all of the changes, you did it. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me and making it through the course. Thank you for your hard work, the great work you turned in, but not only that, but thank you for taking the feedback and being able to apply it and carry it on throughout your assignments. You have no idea how much I truly appreciate you doing that. When you get a chance, please go ahead and review your final grade. If you have questions about it, please let me know. Just send me an email. Try to get your questions in before the course closes on Friday. And if when I do get everything loaded, usually I'll try to get all the grades loaded into Ramport by Sunday. Sometimes it takes a little longer for all of that to process, but they usually will be in there not too long after that. So just give it some time once the grades get finally posted in Ramport. I would like to ask, if you can, will you please complete the Qualtrics survey. It's a new one that I put in there just this week because I want to get.
Yeah. So that is just a little taste of it. And what I end up doing through the rest of that is just kind of wrapping up course requirements, completing IDA survey, and then just telling them to take a little bit of break before we start again, you know, for the summer session. So the second one, which it's kind of similar, that is a type of video that it's used as an immediacy video, but it almost could carry as well into instructional, because I discussed, go ahead, here we go.
Well, I was going to fast forward.
Oh, I was like, yeah, go ahead. But what it does is it kind of talks about the specific assignment requirements, questions that students had asked through email that I addressed, but then also broke it down a little bit more specific, so it hits some of the instructional as well.
Bonnie, I'm so glad you came to my office today. It seems that maybe you're wanting to talk.
So they're making a confidentiality video, and they're kind of having to talk to an empty chair. So that's what I was like, they were saying, you know, thanks for coming in. And I was kind of breaking it down, giving an example of how they would start that video to submit for their assignment. Sorry, I was like, that's a weird piece, but it is what it is, right? For teacher immediacy videos, like I said, it was a response to the now, and we're able to address specific questions at that time and then take the feedback that has been given. Those are also videos that we talk about the expectations we have for assignments, but then also we do kind of like after we've graded all those assignments, we'll do a reflection over, that's okay, a reflection over the, what we saw, what were common errors and what things could be fixed. So that's kind of what we do with teacher immediacy videos.
Okay, the second kind was the instructional videos, and this is probably what you think of as more traditionally what you would find in the courses. These particular videos are two different kinds, and I'm just going to go ahead and click on one. And just to give you an idea, the assignment that she's focusing on is in the counseling course. They have to do a sample confidentiality informed consent, and so they are practicing giving that kind of information to a client, so from there she gives them kind of what the requirements are, what the expectations are, and in one of these videos she actually breaks down the assignments, the step-by-step, and the criteria.
When we study confidentiality, limited confidentiality, consent, and assent, there can be pieces of this information that is a little confusing. Because this is such an important practice in what we do as counselors, I want to make sure that all of those pieces are clarified a little bit more.
So that just gives you a taste. And then she goes through with that video and she does go break down each of those steps. And so the students know exactly what's expected. So they get it both written in the assignment in the course, but then they get this real-time explanation of everything. And it's amazing how just the voice, the tone, first of all, they get more relaxed listening to everyone, and they can actually hear it. It's not so stressful. And so then we just find that the assignments that they submit after listening to the videos are so much better, even though the videos don't necessarily give any additional information than what the written instructions are. They can process it so much easier through the video and the explanations and just hearing the tone. And I think we actually come across maybe not quite so scary,
right?
we're that real person.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, with instructional videos, those are the ones that you think of more, they're very course specific. You would only put them in this course with this content, with this concept, with this assignment, something like that. You might think of lectures. You might think of the introduction of a specific concept or the wrap up of a specific concept as well. And so those are kind of those instructional videos.
And then our Evergreen videos, like I said, these are the kind that are broad, not course specific, but are the kind that will help students across the board, no matter what courses they're in. We usually we have some, for example, this one of them would be an APA. Another one is how to navigate the course. And not all of our courses, but some of our courses are set up very similar. And so just how to work through that course. And then the other one I have in there is actually a self-care video. And I've made a couple of those and we've shared them just across different courses just to help our students, especially some of those started within the pandemic because I'm like, okay, everybody needs some self-care in this. And so that's where those came into play. But those are some that we, like I said, share across the board. We have an orientation tab, and we use those kinds of examples.
And one of the things I want to point out on this one is that as you notice, the previous ones were very much the person face to face. You know, in some cases you think of it as a talking head, but they still get to know the person. But even with that, with like, if you see this one right here, we won't play these right now, but if you see this one, you see that it doesn't always have to be the person. Sometimes it's the video to give them that instruction on the content, the form, and all of those details. And then they still get to hear your voice. So you still become a real person to them.
And like we said, you know, for Evergreen videos, the way that we categorize these is that they can be in multiple places, and you can use them for several different purposes. Like I said, software tutorials, which you'll see lots of YouTube videos over that type of information where you're seeing, and then it walks you through how to do what. Writing tutorials, that's another one where it just talks you through some of the basic pieces of writing. We also have some that set up APA formatted paper so that they can see the steps of how to walk through Microsoft Word in order to set up the document that they need. And then the frequently asked questions for programs. Sometimes those are a little bit more program specific. However, we share them across the board because they're applicable, because our courses sometimes are not just a specific program. For example, we have our what we call foundational courses, where everyone takes those for their program, and then they get program specific courses. But that's to help with, sometimes those videos are for when is registration, where do you go to do that, who do you talk to for advising, that kind of thing.
And when she mentions the programs, you know, Evergreen videos, yes, they can go, the key is multiple places. They may not go everywhere, but they can go in multiple places. And so, like she said, with our programs, there may be some videos that can fit in all of the courses that address one program, even if they don't go in all of the courses for a department.
Right, right.
Okay, so then when you're making these videos, it's like, okay, well, where do I start? Because that, and that's one of my challenges when I started doing the videos, because that is not my natural thing. It's kind of a funny thing to sit there and talk to your computer by yourself in your office or wherever you happen to be. And so that it is kind of, okay, where do I start? Well, the first thing is just remember that most videos, depending on where you can read all kinds of research, you read all kinds of best practice articles and journals and all that, and you're going to get anywhere from 2 minutes to 6 minutes. And really it's going to depend on the objective and what you're trying to accomplish with that video. The key is that you have a clear objective. Because if the students understand that you have a clear objective and they know what that objective is, they're more willing to listen or watch a video that's a little bit longer. If they're not sure what you're going to share, and that's where some of the immediacy videos you would want to make a little shorter, because that and what I found is like when I would go through and I do one that talks them through Excel, because they have to do some data analysis in one of the research courses I do. Well, that one tends to be a little bit longer because I talk about the different tools and the different formulas that they're going to have to use and how they use them and how they're going to use that with their data. So it's very specific, very content specific, very assignment specific, but they know they need it and it's practical, it's applicable. And so they go through the whole thing and they're very thankful for it, because it does take more than 5 minutes to do that. Some of the other videos where it's just kind of a wrap up or just an introduction or something like that, those tend to be a little shorter because they're not sure what to get out of it. It's like they just get to the point and move on. Let's go on. And so those are some of the details to consider there. Also, consider the background. Consider and when I say background, that is the background noise, the background behind you, sometimes it's the settings, the sounds, sometimes it's the what you wear. It's not that you have to be like all dressed up to do it. It's just that you don't want it to be a distraction. One time I did a video and it took me, just took me forever to decide how to do this video, what the objective was, what I wanted to say. And for whatever reason, it was just really a challenging one for me. And finally, I was like, okay, I'm going to record this video. I got over halfway through the video and an Amber alert went over my phone. And so that one I had to start over again. But you do have to be kind of aware of those distractions. And so that also tends to make the videos a little bit shorter so that you don't have to worry about those distractions and then have to redo it once you find the end of it, you have a distraction.
And it has been such good practice to know your time limit and to know what your objective is. Because I don't know much. Sometimes I think we are all teachers. I mean, that's what we do. And we're used to getting up and just talking and sharing. And then out of nowhere, we get off on this tangent that had nothing to do with our original objective. So having that objective in mind, and typically I'll have mine on some kind of note up in the screen right by where I'm recording. And then knowing you have a time limit. So you got to get to the point, and that time limit goes really fast. And so having those is definitely helpful. And then for those of us that still have kids at home, making sure that I'm somewhere that I don't get this video bomb kid behind me, just making goofy faces. Had that happen before too, and we started over. And the good thing is about some of these tools that I'm about to talk about, there's some great features in here where you're able to take and edit. I remember there's one video that's taken me forever to make, similar to yours. And right when I'm about to be done, you can hear my youngest boy yell in the background, "Mom!" And I'm like, oh man. But the cool thing is I could pause it. I knew I could delete that little piece right there, and then I could pick right back up where I was recording. So I didn't have to start completely over. So depends on what tool you're using though. So that part is great about some of these tools. There's definitely benefits to each one, and there's definitely downfalls to each one. And it's just kind of and I'd say almost a personal preference when it comes to what you feel most comfortable using. Zoom is definitely something I'm sure everyone has become familiar with, especially now. It's free. Now you're only allowed to do 45 minutes at a time, which is usually plenty. If that's the way you're recording your lecture, there might be better ways instead of going that long, because like we talked about, that attention span's a little shorter. So maybe breaking that up into a couple of them and being very specific on each one. But Zoom is something you can use for a longer period of time. You can screen share, you can use your phone app. You can invite others in as well, and then it can be downloaded and it can link and it can embed. So that part's really nice. Flipgrid is obviously, if you saw all my videos, almost all of them, I have some Zoom ones, but most of them are Flipgrid because it's easy to do from my phone or my computer, and once I'm done, it emails me the link and I can either send it in an email or I can put it in my announcement. It's real quick. You can upload, you can screen share. The longest you can go in Flipgrid is 10 minutes, which for the types of videos, for the most part, that's pretty much all you need. And then it also does closed caption, which is great. For Kaltura, that's something that we use as well within our courses. You can upload videos, or you can directly record them into Blackboard. They can be longer. They also have the closed captioning option. You can be used as a team, and they can be used in multiple courses. Once you've uploaded it in your Kaltura, then it can go with you wherever you go, which is really nice. YouTube is one that typically when we have students or we use it, then we record and then we upload. But you can do the same, pretty much have the same features with YouTube as well. For the food for thought. So these are some things that are great about the accessibility. Almost all of the tools that we mentioned, all of the tools that we mentioned have the closed captioning, which adds to the accessibility that you need for your students. Because, whenever you're writing a course or whenever you're building a course, especially online, you want to try to meet the needs of all students. And even if you don't have any students that identify at that point, most don't identify that they need that. And so you want to serve them the best you can. And so already having that built in is fantastic. And then for audio recordings, there are some days, yes, you can do videos where you screen share and it doesn't show you, but there are some days where you definitely don't want to be in a video. I don't know if y'all have had those days, but I have. And so the audio recordings, that's another option. One of the tools that we use for that we've used is Vocaroo. And so that is something that we've used, and it's another option. And what I've done with that is in Blackboard assignments, I'll usually write a little bit of general feedback, and then I will speak through an audio recording so that they can listen to it as well. So I know several of our colleagues have done that. Mm-hmm. And then one thing that I did notice as a downfall for Flipgrid, and I was looking at it today, these videos are, like I said, some of them, if we're going to use them and they can carry over as instructional videos into you can keep in your course. With Flipgrid, it shows the date and it shows the time. So if it's something that I recorded in the spring and a student accesses it, they might not think it's not as relevant, because even though it might be just 8-10 weeks later, they might not feel that way. So that's one thing that I noticed today. I'm like, oh, these dates are on here and I don't know how to get them off. I'm sure there's a way. If anybody knows, tell us. But that's one thing we did notice as a kind of a downfall to that one.
Yes. We appreciate everyone being here.